Well, thank you very much, Kevin. And guys, I just have to tell you that my wife is in here. So if I hear a single whistle or cat call, I'm sicking Burl Cain on you, all right? So mind yourselves. No, thank you very much. And I seriously, when Bob called and asked me to come up here and speak, I'm just so floored. It's a true honor and a blessing for me to be able to be up here and share this stage with guys like Tony and Dennis. And you guys did a fantastic job. So thank you for what you guys were saying. As Kevin stated, I am now full-time in Premier, and this was a decision that I did not take lightly. It came with lots of preparation, lots of prayer, and while I'm absolutely loving my new career in Premier Designs, and I've found my fit in it, it took a lot of years of preparation to get me to this point, and some struggles I had to overcome to even get to this point, and things I had to learn to get here. And I feel like I personally was very prepped for this position. I was prepped well. My grandfather in Premier, even though he's not old enough to be a grandfather, but he is now a grandfather, Kent Wallace, he is also full-time. So I learned a lot from him. Eric Weller, he is in our area. He's another 7-diamond designer. He is full-time in Premier. So for the last few years, I've been able to talk to them and learn from them and listen to their trainings and what they have to say about being full-time. So I feel like for me, I was prepped really well coming into it, but there was still a lot of things that I've learned even in the last year and a half. So what does it look like being full-time? What do I do in Premier? And I was blown away by the number of you guys that stood up that said that you're Premier full-time. Just raise your hand again so that I can see your hands. That is a huge number of you guys that are full-time, and that's awesome. But the number one question I'm asked is, well, what do you do? What do you do in Premier? And I'm assuming maybe, like you and for a little like me, it's a question you have a hard time answering. Because there's so many things that I do, it's hard to just go, well, here's my 5-second answer of what I do. Before, I was like, oh, I work buildings, grounds, and maintenance, period. That was easy. But now there's so many different roles that I play, and there's, I think, 6 main roles in any business that needs to happen in order for the business to function well. There's the president, there's the CEO, there's the CFO, there's the marketing director, the production manager, the sales manager. And on any given day, I may weave in and out of every single one of those roles in a 24-hour period. So it's kind of hard to say, well, I am a X, Y, or Z in Premier. So the nice thing about our position is that we're not stuck to a 9-to-5 job. We get to pick the hours that we want to work and the hours we don't want to work. And usually for us now, it coordinates with our family's schedule, which is a huge blessing. Now I'm going to break down those 6 roles. I'm going to go through each since every one of those and tell you a little bit about what I do in that role and even some of the things I've done to prepare myself for those 6 roles. The first 2, the CEO and the president. My wife and I are the CEO and the president. I'm not one over her, she's not one over me. We fill those 2 roles equally, okay? That's just what works for us, all right? The CEO and the president, they basically get together and they coordinate together what the overall organization will look like at the end of the year or whatever. And for us, January, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, whatever, first part of January, we sit down and we say, okay, what do we want our business to look like at the end of the year? How many people do we want to have in our 10-10-10? How much money do we want to try to make this year? How many people do we personally want to sponsor? What contests do we want to run? So on and so forth. And those are the overall goals of our company that we then try to break down later in the other roles. As the president, the president's more in charge of keeping track of each other. Okay, so she's making sure I'm filling my roles, I'm making sure she's filling her roles, and keeping each other accountable to those things. Every Monday morning now, we sit down and we start the day evaluating where our business is and what we need to do for the week in order to achieve the overall goals that we've set for ourselves. Now, this could be anything from contests that we're running to planning our monthly trainings, getting home show invites out in the mail, hostess coaching, team building, prepping new jewelers orientations. We then take those tasks and we divide them up between the 2 of us. And we say, okay, well, how many home shows do we have this week scheduled? And then we divide them up based on our strengths and based on our given tasks. Like, I don't do the home shows, guys. I've done one. Okay? Dennis, you should really pat yourself out. He's never done any. But I've done a home show, but that's not my role. Okay? There's a lot of guys, that is your role, and that's fine if that works for your business. That's great. I'm not up here to tell you that you need to quit your job and be full-time in Premier, okay? Just like dentists didn't come up here and say, you need to be a dentist. I don't want to be sticking my fingers down somebody's mouth and pulling junk out of their teeth, just like he doesn't want to work Premier full-time, okay? It's got to be your niche, okay? So please don't leave and go, Mike Bazzle said I should quit my job. No, okay? I'm not saying that. Your wife would never let you listen to me again, all right? New jewelry orientations, trainings, we break all of those down. Like I said, I don't do the home shows. Amy Jo doesn't do the invites anymore. That's my role. That's one of my given tasks. Let's move over to the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer. Any of you guys can do this if you're good with money or like figures. My wife hates money. She doesn't hate money. She loves money. She just doesn't like keeping track of it. She just says, well, how much can I spend at the end of the week? I, on the other hand, love keeping track of it. I like keeping the stats. I can tell you that personally, since we started back in March of 2002, Amy Jo has sold $369,161.78 in retail jewelry. I can tell you that she has held 720 personal home shows, and that collectively, together, we've sponsored 77 jewelers. Now, guys, those are not stats that I just came up with the last year and a half after being full-time. Those are stats that I've been keeping track with from the very beginning, just kind of slowly adding in little parts of me, little bits, adding in more of my role here and there. The CFO basically is the person who tracks the 10-10-10's performance, enters the orders. I do all the ordering for our Premier business. Actually, my wife, I went to bed last night because I was tired. She entered her own retail certificates last night, and she hated it. I'm so sorry, honey. I was tired. I went to bed, and she struggled with it. And this morning, she's like, I couldn't figure out how to do it because I haven't done it for such a long time, because that's my role, and I thank you for stepping in for that and filling in for me last night because I was tired. Like I said, Amy Jo does not fill this role as CFO. This is my role. I keep track of our expenses. I keep track of our income. I keep track of our taxes. These are all things that I have to do now full-time, making sure that I have a budget for not just our home, but also our business, and making sure that our one income can supply both needs. The sales manager, this is pretty much 100% Amy Jo. She is the one who's booking the shows, hostess coaching. She is the one holding the shows. I don't have a desire to do them. Like I said, Amy Jo does a phenomenal job at the home shows. That is her strength. There's no reason, there's no need for me to step into that role and do that. It's her job to build those relationships with our people. She is the sales manager of our company. The production manager, this is pretty much 100% me now. I make sure that the office is well stocked with all the materials that we need to run our Premier Designs business. All of the catalogs, order forms, hostess packets, the home show folders that she takes to her home shows, carrying the jewelry out to her car. Anything that I can do to relieve her from that makes it easier for her in her role as sales manager. And guys, I tell you what, this is not a glamorous part of the job. This is one of the most boring parts of my job, in my opinion, but everybody's got that job. But what I've realized is that this role is so vitally important to support the sales manager. Once I took over that 100% of the role, Amy Jo's retail per home show this year alone has went up $120 per show. Now, we believe that a big factor of that is because she doesn't have to worry about the stuff that bogs her down in the office anymore, and she can just basically come in, sit down, and work when she's in the office on building those relationships with our hostesses and preparing mentally and preparing her home show well. Finally, the marketing director. This happens to be my favorite role in Premier. I love being the marketing director of our business. This is the area that I can be creative and relational with the people in our downline. Like I said, we break down, as CEO and president, we say this is our overall goal. As marketing directors, together then, we say, okay, well, that was the overall goal we set. Let's break it down into monthly and weekly bite-sized chunks, and what does that look like? And about 8 years ago, we realized that for the most part, every jeweler needs a boss, needs an employer, or needs a coach, basically. Because nobody gets in and goes, I know exactly what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. I don't need your help. And so we're like, okay, well, how do we do that? How do we help teach and train these people? So as marketing directors, we said, well, we need to run leadership clubs to develop designers. We need to run contests. And some of the contests we've created on our own. Other ones we've just said, well, what are you doing? Did it work? Okay, we'll try that. And we've implemented that into our business. So don't always try to reinvent the wheel. A contest we started last year, the 50, 75, 100 Home Show Club, where I am holding accountable those girls in our downline who are wanting to hold either 50, 75, or 100 home shows in a given 12 in this year. And every single month then I'm telling them this is where you're at, this is where you should be based on your goals, and then how are we going to get, make sure you're staying on track for the rest of the year. That's been extremely successful for our business. I also realized about 8 years ago there was a void in our business. And that void mostly came from me that I wasn't working with the men in our downline. So I said, you know what, honey? We need to have a men's contest. And she's like, huh? And I said, I want to be able to get the guys involved and teach and train them how to work with their wives in this business. And so we developed what we call the men's contest. And every single year now, it's been 7 years now, we have done a men's contest where I'm giving the guys a checklist, and for 4 to 6 weeks, they're going down through that checklist, and they're earning points based on their activity. It could be 5 points for carrying the jewelry out to the car. Check, 5 points. It can be booking home shows for the wives. It can be stamping catalogs. There's a whole list of a to-do list for the guys, and for our new jewelers, it's great because I can say, hey guys, here's the roles, or here's areas that you can step in and help your wife with her business. They go, oh, awesome. On that contest, though, guys, I'm also giving them a list of books to read. Happy to Do It's on there. By Chance or By Design. Leadership books from John Maxwell. Those, if they read those books, they get bonus points. I'm also challenging them to work on their wife's and their relationship. They get bonus points if they plan and implement a date night with their wife. Now, why would I throw those things in there? Because those things are not going to directly influence their business or mine. But what I know is that it's going to do is it's going to indirectly influence their business. Because I know that if I can challenge someone to better their core by what they're doing, by what they're working on with their relationship with their wife, or by what they're reading, I know that usually what comes out is going to be better. As marketing director, I support the sales manager. And again, I'm going back to supporting Amy Jo. In our business, with our downline, the face of our business is Mike and Amy Jo Bazzle. But when it comes to our sales, when it comes to the hostesses and the customers, Amy Jo is the face of our business. And it's my role, my job to support her and make sure that she is being promoted and that I'm marketing her the best of my ability. Now, how do you do that? You guys, you can simply do this by talking about your wife to your friends or other people you know. Build her up. Promote her. And how do you do that? Well, if you Facebook, you can put a little post about your wife. Oh, I'm so proud of my wife at National Rally, whatever. If you're on Twitter, you can tweet about your wife. Did you guys know that you guys can steer any conversation in any direction you want it to go at any time? Now, what I mean, I'll give you an example. When guys would ask me, hey, Mike, or hey, Bazzle, how's things going? I'd say, great, I can't complain. I'm healthy, wife's healthy, kids are good, business is growing, life's good. And I leave it at that. What's the next question do you think that person's going to ask me? What business? Because that's what they heard. What business? What are you talking about? And then they've opened up the door then for me to promote and talk about my wife and to praise her publicly. That's all you're doing in this job is just praising your wife publicly, you guys. That will take you guys miles by simply praising your wife. I'd be at and that approach of saying, my business is doing good. I've sponsored people from that approach. I've booked home shows from that approach. There was one time where I was in the break room at work, and I was talking to some guys about Premiere, and a lady walked in carrying a cardboard box. And they were like, you need to be talking to Lynn about this jewelry stuff, not us guys. And Lynn's like, huh? And I said, Lynn, you need to book a home show with my wife, Amy Jo. I said, you'll get lots of free jewelry from Premier Designs. It's beautiful stuff. I promise you'll have fun, and plus it'll get me like some serious brownie points at home. And she's like, I'm just trying to sell these candy bars for my daughter's school. And I said, Lynn, I will buy every one of those candy bars off of you if you book a home show with my wife. And she looked in her box, and she's like, you don't know how many candy bars are in here. I said, it doesn't matter, I'll buy them. So 28 candy bars and $28 later, I booked a home show for my wife. And I tell you what, it was so much satisfaction. When I walked into the house, I set the box down on that table, and my wife said, what's that? And I said, that, dear, is a home show. So you guys, be creative in your business, okay? We're not a cookie-cutter business. You're not a cookie-cutter business. You're not a cookie-cutter guy. Use your own personality to promote your wife and her personality. Market her. before going full-time, I really, like I said, I had to educate myself. And I challenge you guys, at whatever role you want to play with you and your wife in this business, educate yourself in that arena. You know, Dennis came to every single rally. He was educating himself just simply by showing up. And I applaud you guys for showing up today. But when you're here, though, I want you to apply yourself. Really take in what you're learning. My wife and I would go to every single monthly trainings with her from the very beginning. Because I knew that was good. It was date night for us. With 4 kids, I mean, we needed a date night. And that was our date night for many, many, many years. But when you're there, pay attention and really get to know what they're saying. Learn the language of Premier. I was at training one month at our local training, and a coworker of mine was there as a guest. And I said hi to Sharon as she came in, and she said, "Hi, Mike," and she had sat down, and the training went on, and it was all about fashion. And the trainers were talking about layering and stacking your jewelry and putting lots of necklaces on as layering and lots of bracelets as stacking. Well, the next day, I see Sharon walking down the hallway at work, and I realized she has implemented everything that she just learned the night before. And I'm wanting to promote my wife and promote our business. So as she's walking up, I get those 2 terms switched. I look at her right in her necklaces. I point right at her neckline, and I say, "Sharon, you're looking nice and stacked today." I cringe just telling you that story. So why did I tell you my most embarrassing moment? Because I want you guys to be willing to fail forward, okay? That's simply what I did. I failed forward. And I was just trying to market my wife and market my business, and thankfully she just smiled and said, "Oh, thank you," and she went on. And I didn't even catch it until the next day, and then, of course, was mortified. You guys, very quickly I realized that working full-time meant working full-time on my relationship with my wife, my business partner, my best friend. And you need to work on your relationship and how you communicate with your wife if you're ever going to step into this role. Because this role fills every area of your life with your wife. And if you can't communicate well with her now, don't throw yourself into being full-time. Okay? It's like throwing yourself into the furnace expecting not to get burned. Okay? You're going to get singed big time. So you got to be willing and able to work on that from here out. Okay, it's not something I go, "Oh, yep, I worked on it, now I'm good." It's an ongoing process. In the movie Courageous, there's 4 men who are working on becoming better fathers to their kids and better husbands to their wives. One of the main characters, Adam Mitchell, he's sitting there and he's talking with his son, and he's having this heart-to-heart moment with his son. He says, "Son," he says, "I don't feel like I started well, but I want to finish well." And you guys, we have that responsibility with every aspect of our lives. I have that aspect with my wife's relationship with me. I have that aspect with my business being full-time, with my kids, every single aspect. And I challenge you guys, finish well, whatever it might be. And you know, we're never really finished until we're dead, until we die. So whatever aspect you're working on, keep working at it, keep plugging away. You guys, protect your marriage. Do not put yourself in compromising situations that could lead to mistrust with your wife or the people you work with in your downline. My job is not to build strong relationships with the women in my downline. It's not. I'm there to coach them and teach them and train them, but my job, my role is to build a strong relationship with their husbands, someone else's wife. Okay? That's not my role. And you have to put up a strong hedge of protection around you at all times. An example, we got some jewelers that are really close to us, within 10 minutes of our house. And she had a prospect about an hour and a half away. And she said, "Mike, would you be willing to come and share the marketing plan because I think she'll sign up?" And I said, "Absolutely. What's the address? I'll meet you there." Now, did it make sense for both of us to drive separate an hour and a half when we live 10 minutes away? You better believe it made sense. Okay? Proverbs 31:10 says, "A wife of noble character who can find? She's worth far more than rubies." Because I believe that I have found a wife of noble character. It's now my job, my role as a husband, to be a noble husband in return to her. Thank you. Randy Draper said many years ago, and actually it kind of prompted the men's contest, to build a strong to build a strong business, you have to build strong relationships with the families in your downline. Andy and Joan's vision for Premier was that it would be a family business where the men could be involved. And guys, I challenge you, be involved at some level. I challenge you to be the richest man in your community. And I'm not talking about riches as in your net worth, as in what your bank statement may be, but I'm talking about what your wife and your kids may state about you. There's another character in that movie, Courageous, Xavier Martinez, and he's getting ready for this ceremony he's about to participate in, and he's putting on this jacket and this suit, and he's looking at himself in the mirror, and his wife's next to him, and he looks at him and he says, I feel like I feel like a rich man. And his wife said, you are a rich man. You have a strong faith, kids that love you, and a wife that adores you. Guys, would your wife say that about you? Does she say that? Would she say she adores you? Because if she does, that's awesome. You've worked at your marriage. Adoration is not something we just get. Adoration is something that is earned. You guys, I personally believe that this business, Premier Designs, is not a woman's business. I believe it's a woman's market. And there's a place for you and there's a place for myself. I believe that if I would have just came up here and talked about working the business of Premier and not focused and not mentioned about the business of your marriage and working at it, then I would have missed the purpose of Premier. Whether you're a supportive spouse in Premier or a full-time spouse in Premier, like a lot of you guys are as well, our purpose is still the same. Men, love your wives and support them in whatever they do. There's always room for improvement. I'm going to leave you with 2 words that I hope will have a profound meaning on your life, on your relationship with your wife, as a parent, and on your business. Guys, it's these 2 simple words. Finish well. God bless. Brother,